Bit of a different one here. I was just cutting this video together for the podcast to make it into like one big episode, and I thought, let's just cut it into a mega episode. So this is a rehash of last year's Foals video, which is 3 parts in one, so it's like 20 minutes. But it goes from literally the start all the way to the end. So let me know what you think. Hope you enjoy. Just who the fuck are Foals? In today's episode, we're tackling a big one. So big that I'm actually splitting it into 3 parts. Today we're looking at one of the biggest bands in the UK. We're looking at Foals. They're just so f***ing good. I don't know how else to put it. They're just the best. If you've never heard of them before, hopefully this video will help answer the question, who the f*** are Foals? Yanis, Jack and Jimmy are the 3 members that currently make up Foals.
I'm Yanis from Foals.
Previous members also include Andrew Mears, Walter Gervis and Edwin Congrave. They're from Oxford in the United Kingdom, genre-wise described as indie rock, alternative rock, dance, punk, art rock and math rock, which up until researching this video I'd never heard of before. Jack and Yanis had their start in music in the cult 3-piece math rock band the Edmund Fitzgerald. Their track Eli Crush was initially released on Truck Records as part of the 2003 Truck Festival compilation CD. Truck Festival was much smaller in 2003. The Edmund Fitzgerald would split in 2005 with Lena, the 3rd member, seeking a musical career. They also claimed that things had become too serious and that they wanted to have more fun making music. This led to Yanis and Jack forming Foals. You can really hear the early sounds of what Foals would come to be, and it's definitely the foundation of what led on to their first album. In 2006, they would put out the double A side, Try This on Your Piano, and Look at My Furrows of Worry, with the former record featuring vocals from Andrew Mears rather than Yanis. They spent much of 2007 playing student unions up and down the country, supporting bands like the Mystery Jets and the Young Knives. Remember the Young Knives? And even dates in London with JME. God, I loved that this whole time. The first single with vocals from Yanis would be the 2007 track Hummer. Hummer would go on to feature on the deluxe edition of their debut album and was used on the TV show Skins, depicting a brilliant late noughties new rave party. God, I was just literally talking about them to Lauren this morning. There was like 5 years of just exciting times. Yanis describes this period as, the music was almost a premeditated mix of blending techno and minimalism, and we'd set ourselves these rules, like only staccato rhythms and guitars must be played really high, and it was dope, I loved it. In late 2007, the band released their single Balloons, the first record taken from their upcoming debut album Antidotes. It was at this time that they were going to support Bloc Party on some of their big dates across the UK, as well as their European dates. 7 years later, headlining Alexandra Palace themselves, they got to remind everyone how they played to an almost empty room when they were here last supporting Bloc Party. In March 2008, the band released the iconic Cassius. A record that was so of its time and of that whole scene. It's also the record that was played at every single indie disco student night until like My Number was released. Antidotes was released on the 24th of March 2008 with critical success. It went to number 3 in the album chart in the UK, scoring a Metacritic score of 74. My favourite review comes from Dusted Magazine, who say, "It's hard not to admire the jerky, clean-toned guitar scribbles on Cassius, but most of the rest of the album sounds like a Franz Ferdinand B-side." They scored the album 5 out of 10. They went on to release the singles Red Sox, Pugy and Olympic Airways from the album. And it also featured the first song they ever wrote, the common set closer, Two Steps Twice.
You finish on 2 steps twice as well. I think that's really nice.
Always,
it's always good that you finish on that one.
That's the first song we ever wrote.
Yeah.
Always. If we didn't finish on 2 steps twice, it'd be like not saying goodbye to somebody. That's what it means. Like.
In August 2009, they would travel to Gothenburg, Sweden to record their sophomore album, with the band describing the record as sounding like tropical prog, like a dream of an eagle dying. In March 2010, the first track from the second album debuted on Zane Lowe's Radio 1 show, The Majestic Spanish Sahara. song was written in the basement of their Oxford house, and I'll hand it over to Yanis to describe the meaning.
It has no real relevance to the real Spanish Sahara, which none of us have been to, or anything. But it's kind of an imaginary place that's somewhere that's quite nightmarish and ravaged. It's like a film still, like of some desolate landscape, and the whole song in a way is like getting over a trauma that you see there. But the trauma doesn't go away, and it multiplies from one into a bunch of Furies at the end, which was kind of to do with the Greek myths of the Furies, who would haunt families and generations.
It went on to take the #1 spot at the NME Top 25 Songs of the Year in 2010, as well as winning the Best Song at the NME Awards in 2011. It also made it onto the Triple J Hottest 100 and got to number 98. What? Number 98? That's outrageous! Come on, Australia, you can be better than bloody 98. It's Spanish Sahara, it's amazing. Their second album, Total Life Forever, was released in May 2010 to raging critical success, bagging them their first Mercury Prize nomination. Also gained a Metacritic score of 78, the best review coming from AV Club stating, "Total Life Forever is a bid to be less in your face than in your head. And while its effect is less immediate, its come down is way more fun than the party." The album's title was inspired by Ray Kurzweil's theory of the singularity, a point in time where artificial intelligence and like AIs take over humans. Like, we're really close with some of the shit that's happening at the moment. There's a great Neil deGrasse Tyson interview with Ray Kurzweil, which is definitely worth an hour of everyone's time. Additional singles from the album included This Orient, Miami, Blue Blood, as well as their live staple Black Gold. They would go on tour around Australia in 2011, including dates at Brisbane's Laneway Festival, season 5 of WTF, I think so, and started to make demos for their third record. November 5th, 2012, they'd released the monster of a single that was Inhaler. A track review from Pitchfork compares Inhaler to Spanish Sahara, describing it as what starts as a deceptively elegant Japanese garden song Morse pattern lurches upward through 3 pre-chorus gears to a climax that speaks of precisely how valuable their studio time was. Over the cusp, it's a vast, swaggery, swampy riff, powerful enough to shatter concrete foundations, sounding a little like Rage Against the Machine. In December 2012, they would debut their next single, My Number, on Later with Jules Holland. My Number returns to the familiar sounds of early Foals, but approaches it from what was more of a mature angle. They're a band that has spent years exploring their sounds and have figured out the secret sauce to make an absolute banger. It's also the most popular record on 229 million streams on Spotify. They released their third studio album, Holy Fire, in February 2013, which most importantly became the Music Club Album of the Year in 2013. I've got distinct memories of walking around Bath listening to this record. It was also nominated for a Mercury Music Prize in 2013 and gained a Metacritic score of 76. AllMusic describes the album as, on Holy Fire, the third album from the English band, the post-punk revival is given a newfound sense of depth, creating songs that are rhythmic enough to draw listeners, but hyponic enough to leave listeners lost in the wide open spaces. The album also featured the incredible Late Night, which is an amazing music video. And their live staple, Providence. Which I've always described as a cowboy record. Like, you know, like, I'm trying to explain it, like a horseback, sunset in the background, along a ridge. That's how I've always thought it was Providence. In April 2014, in an interview with NME, Yanis said, over the next month, I think we're going to really start writing tentatively. We've already got some bits and bobs around some riffs and some vocal melodies. I think until May, we're going to go back to Oxford and write in the stink box and see what happens. And then, in June 2015, they shared the album's title track, What Went Down, premiering on Annie Mac's Future Sounds, which would have been a very early episode of Annie Mac's Future Sounds. This was followed up with a single, Mountain at My Gates, in July. That record's ending is just absolutely next level. They released their fourth studio album, What Went Down, in August 2015 to critical acclaim, scoring 77 on Metacritic. DIY scored it 100, stating, "There's a consistent feeling that instead of edging towards going one bigger, the band embraced their calling. And if Foals didn't already have enough songs in their arsenal to top festival bills, they've just added 10 more. The album is a bloody masterpiece." It also features live staples Birch Tree, the epic album closer Knife in the Ocean, and my personal favourite, London Thunder. In August 2015, they were going to perform a secret set at Reading and Leeds. Which happened to be my littlest brother's first ever gig. Yeah, I took him to his first ever gig, which happened to be Reading Festival for the day, and it happened to be the Foals secret set. It was his first ever gig. Ridiculous. They went on tour across the UK and EU in February and March of 2016, followed by a run of shows in America supported by Peace and Everything Everything. This was before going on to headline the Friday at Reading and Saturday at Leeds for R&L 2016. This was the first time they headlined a AAA festival. I was there and it was great. Okay, cool. We've established them as a band. They've been nominated for 2 Mercurys. They've headlined their first festival and released 4 albums. The 5-piece are dominating the world. And then, January 2018, the band announced that Walter had amicably departed the band, and that instead of replacing him, they would continue as a 4-piece. In the same note, they announced that we're making new music and working on the 5th LP. It's going to be the best yet. Keep those ears alive. Love, Foals. And then, January 2019, out of nowhere, we got a teaser followed by a premiere of the newest single, Exits.
I said I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting around. I wish I could.
A record that when Animac first played it, I thought she'd f***ed up because it has this like different track on the intro. It's oddly satisfying sounding French record. It's really cool. I don't know if it is French, but it has that like dramatic-y. A music video was also shared featuring Game of Thrones star Isaac H. Wright, known for playing Bran Stark, fencing with French actress Krista Tourette. I think Tourette. It was announced that this time the LP5 was actually LP 5 and 6, announcing the titles Everything Not Saved Will Be Lost Part 1 and 2, a title that was adapted from a Nintendo quit screen. Part 1 was released in March 2019, which included other singles Sunday, On the Luna, which has like the craziest time signature, The Monster That Is White Onions, and the wonderfully rave-inspired In Degrees. It was the band's 3rd Mercury nomination, putting them in a class with people like Dizzy Rascal, Wolf Alice, Pulp, Coldplay, Florence and the Machine, and David Bowie, all of which have been nominated 3 times, but the latter 3, so I'm talking Coldplay, Florence, and David Bowie, never won a Mercury. Never won. The album's artwork was a photograph by Vincent Muniz, who used infrared film to contrast vegetation with the built-up environment, and it's so dope. I didn't realise you could get infrared film. Like, I'm gonna hyper-obsess over that now. A remix version of the album was released in September. The standout, of course, was Purple Disco Machine's remix of In Degrees.
Don't leave me on my knees.
Part 2 came in October 2019, featuring singles The Runner, Black Bull, as well as the second part of part one, Surf, Into the Surf. God, that's confusing. On the first album, there was a song called Surf, which was great. It was called Surf Part 1. And then part 2, there was Into the Surf, which is, it's great. Oh, fucking shut up, Jack. If I had one criticism of this project, it's that I would have liked to see more light and dark versions, more part 1s and part 2s, more brother sister records. That being said, it is a double album and it's no easy feat, but like, I don't know, I just feel like there could have been part 1 certainly feels like early Foals, groove, funk, indie. Part 2 feels a lot more rock and roll, a lot more heavy. And I just wonder if maybe they could have done Exits Part 2, the dark version, which has like the same guitar as Inhaler, but like boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? Like just a bit more. It was the first album to reach #1 in the UK album chart. They both scored 78 and 77 representatively on Metacritic. Reviews came in saying, merging their asymmetrical early math pop with the deep space atmospherics of Total Life Forever and Holy Fire, plus added innovations. Ambient rainforest throbs on Moonlight, deadpan EDM on Indegrees, and Afro glitch Radiohead on Café de Athens. They've created and inspired albums Scorched Earth new music that, in all likelihood, will only really be challenged for their album of the year by part 2. This is a special piece of music, and one that is all the more likely to impress because of how unexpectedly it departs from the formula laid out in part 1. As both a standout piece and as a counterpart to its predecessor, Everything Not Saved Part 2 is a towering achievement. They were going to perform a secret set at the 2019 Glastonbury Festival on the Park stage.
It just felt more important and bigger than we were expecting it. And I think we realised like quite soon after we were on stage by how many people had shown up. I don't know, there was just something in the air at that show.
Looking out at that sea of people, that felt really, really powerful. It felt like one of those shows that if at the end of the band's career, I was to look back and be like, right, top 10 shows, like that will be up there.
That set, as well as some incredible footage, including their 2019 World Tour and live recordings from Alexandra Palace, was made into a documentary called Rip Up the Road. Now available on Amazon Prime. I highly recommend you go watch it. You could write an entire episode on which just covers the remixes, and there's some incredible standouts, but it's definitely worth mentioning that in 2020, they would go on to remix Local Native's brilliant Dark Days, taken from their 2016 album Sunlit Youth. In September 2021, Edwin announced that he was departing the band to pursue a postgraduate degree in economics, something they alluded to in the documentary, and the band announced that they had started work on a new album as a 3-piece. In November, the band released their first single, Wake Me Up. Taken from the highly anticipated 7th studio album. The song was premiered on Clara Amfo's newly appointed Future Sound show, and is about as talking heads as a track could be. In February 2020, they put out their next single, the very Chris Rea inspired 2am. As well as announcing the title for album 7, Life Is Yours. They also announced that it's due for release on June 17th. That next week. Week after, just in time for Glastonbury. This was followed up with singles Looking High and 2001. The latter's music video just dropped and it's bloody great. And looking at their set list, it looks like they've also been playing the album's title track, Life Is Yours, as well. Foals are probably like mine and Lauren's favourite current band that are like still touring and playing. We've watched them grow, I've seen them play loads of times. They're just amazing. Every album they put out is flawless. They f***ing get it. After watching the documentary, I think they need to cut down on the booze, but whatever the process is to get these records out, I'm okay with. I'm so excited to see them play. I bloody love Foals. They're just such a cool band, and I think that as a headliner, they're someone that really deserves more credit than they get. It's my opinion. A lot of people don't agree. A lot of people think they shouldn't be headlining Reading. A lot of people think they should be headlining over Sam Fender and Foals on the same day, back to back. That is a winner in my book. What do you think? Will you be going and checking out this set? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye.